my name is Will Graylin, and I'm the CEO of OVLoop, and I'm here to talk about contactless payments and rise of contactless payments. But I'm going to go a little bit beyond that to also talk about how the super apps and paying not only the physical environment, but that one-tap pay can be extended into the virtual environment for online, in-app, as well as in-message payments. It's really about adding convenience and security at the same time, but also the rise of privacy. So all three of these elements of privacy, security, along with payments, and how is that integrating in the rise of next generation commerce? So before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about my background and what I've seen happen over the last 20 years since I've been in fintech, and then bring it to where we are today, particularly in North America, when it comes to contactless payments and digital commerce. And then finally, some of what I see and predictions for the future of where we think the world will be going, especially as we go more and more digital these days. And COVID has certainly just accelerated that process. So by way of background, I have started 4 other companies prior to OVLoop, and they were all sold to large publicly traded companies in security and fintech. That was after graduating from MIT with a couple of master's degrees. And prior to MIT, I was actually a nuclear submarine officer for about 5.5 years. But when I got started as an entrepreneur, and after I sold my first security software company, I very naively got into payments and thinking that I was going to build a mobile wallet really way back in 2002, and not realizing how complex payment really is. So you basically have the chicken and the egg problem called the two-sided platform that very few people and very difficult to solve. So I was able to have a technology that at that time bypassed the mobile operator SIM card on phones like these, and thinking that I was going to build a mobile wallet to have a smart card reader on the side and be able to do card present type of transactions for remote payments. But little did I know that it takes really merchants to, lots of merchants to accept it before consumers will care. And of course, there needs to be lots of consumers to accept it before merchants would even wanting to adopt a solution like this. So that's the problem that I was talking about earlier in terms of payments. And we ended up having to really pivot the company or else we were going to die. So we took that, we added a magstripe reader and turned a cell phone into a mobile point of sale. And we put a little infrared in the printer right there and a PET certified pin pad. And this was kind of the square before square, before the smartphone came along. And of course, 2007, smartphones came along. We decided to do those plug-in readers like Squares. So we ended up, doing plug-in readers and white labeling the solution for everybody that was competing against Square at the time, from Intuit to PayPal, and a whole bunch of others adopted our solution, and that was Roam Data. And then of course after that, I got involved in mobile wallets because when Ingenico acquired Roam Data, this is 10 years afterwards, and by 2012, there was still no digital wallet or mobile wallet for and contactless payments. Even though it's been around for a while, it still suffered that problem of not enough acceptance. So then when Apple Pay came along, my business partner and I, George Wallner, we ended up inventing the magnetic secure transmission technology to say, hey, why not create contactless payments without having to wait for the merchants to change their POS, because we all know how long it takes for the POS to change. And so we invented MST, and that was when Samsung decided to acquire our company, Pay, to become Samsung Pay, and I became the global co-GM of Samsung Pay. So the rise of Apple Pay, then Samsung Pay, Google Pay, all of these pays have certainly helped with having and moving people more and more towards contactless payments. However, I would have to say that if you look at the 2021 reports from payments.com, we're still roughly at around 4.5% penetration of what you can use contactless payments in terms of the big pays to actually using it. Cash is actually still way more than Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and Google Pay. And you start to ask yourself, why is that? And of course, credit card and debit card is even higher than that. So at 4.5% penetration is really not enough. And of course, the banks are doing their parts to issue contactless payment cards. And certainly with NFC terminals, more and more contactless cards are also being used, much like in Australia, where there was a lot of contactless card adoption when big retailers like Woolworth started adopting that kind of capabilities. So convenience is certainly part of the attractiveness for contactless payments. However, I would say that when you really look at contactless payments that are truly successful in a much bigger way, you have to look at places like China. And when you look at places like China, where WeChat Pay and Alipay, these have become effectively what we call super apps. And with super apps, they did more than just deal with convenience. They also added value for the consumer. And they created a bridge between the consumer and the merchants themselves and the brands within these super apps. So you don't have to download 100 different apps, and you're able to get rewards, you're able to get offers, you're able to ask for customer support, and of course, you're able to do payments. So I would argue that where the world needs to move towards is this combination and the integration between the consumer's wallet and the merchant's POS, where it used to be pretty much united at the point of sale and in the physical environment. But especially as we get more and more digital, that wallet and point of sale has to work seamlessly together in the online environment, in the in-app environment, in the remote environment that we're moving and migrating more and more towards. So just to give you a contrast, we talked about all of the pays in North America adding up to roughly about 4.5% of transaction volume, and totaling, for Apple Pay in 2021, it was roughly about 100 billion, which is 0.1 trillion. Let me just cap that as $0.1 trillion of transactions. Now, if you contrast that with the second largest economy, I just described the largest economy in the world, which is the US. But if you go to the second largest economy in the world, contrast that with WeChat and WeChat Pay. And the two pays, or the two super apps combined, roughly represented $67 trillion of turnover and throughput. Now that's enormous. And that's already past 83% penetration in terms of, what they could use cash, cards, they're now using their WeChat or Alipay. That is phenomenal. And the reason for that is, as I described, is this combination and uniting wallets and POS, and by making it more convenient as a super app. And that means providing not just payment, but the things that you do before payments, the things that you do after payments, such as offers, such as rewards and loyalty. How do you tie all of these pieces together? And I think that is where the world is moving towards. But unfortunately, in the United States, in Canada, the digital wallet side is really still very fragmented. And the fragmentation of those digital wallets means, hey, if I have iOS, I have this. If I have Android, I have that. If I have a Samsung phone, I have that, and if I have PayPal, I can only do certain things in certain places that accept PayPal, but certainly I'm not buying dinner or coffee or shopping at the mall with my PayPal or Venmo or Cash App. So you got fragmentations that primarily has still been focused on just payments, and the POS is also very fragmented. And anytime you have to change the POS to implement a new payment system or a new reward system, it's painful for the merchant. And that's why it's so hard. Having lived my life in the POS space and then later on in the wallet space, I can see the fragmentation of both POS and wallet being an impediment to this kind of frictionless commerce, this kind of super app commerce that Scott Galloway had described as inevitable, that has to come, and it should be a strategic imperative for the US, and of course Canada as well, for reducing the friction of commerce. So if that is the direction that we know is possible, is inevitable, and it has to happen, then why aren't the big tech companies really doing that? And I would argue that, the big tech companies, primarily, they're tied into their own ecosystem or their own platform and their own either selling more phones or selling more ads type of mindset. And that also drives another problem beyond fragmentation, which is the problem of privacy. And that problem of privacy basically says, hey, we're at a point where everybody's wallet is only locked with one key. And our sensitive data, PII, PCI, is stored into everybody else's database that's locked with one key. And if anybody gets a hold of that one key, whether it's internally or externally through cyber attacks, phishing attacks, they basically have access to the keys of the kingdom. That's why we have so much, not only credit card fraud, identity fraud, but we also have a huge amount of spam that's taking place. And that huge amount of spam basically is another disrespect and irritation to the consumer privacy. So where I see things going next is really a private Web3-like, Web3 meaning we own our own digital keys rather than one key for everybody's properties. To have a super wallet or a super app that is built on that foundation. And then that wallet can be used in a physical, online, in-app environment. It doesn't matter whether it's iOS, Android, doesn't matter what tender type, whether it's payment cards, credit, debit, RTP transactions, and eventually, whatever digital currency actually survives and makes it into mainstream. So that is what we're talking about. And in fact, that is exactly what my current company, OV Loop, is building, and we're just doing a beta launch right now for our product as well, which is why I'm actually here at the ETA show. And but for Canada, for the Payment Summit here in Canada, Canada has to have a super app-like solution going forward as well for the merchants and consumers to take place. And what I see is that whether it's companies like us, in terms of OV Loop, that has built a private digital wallet and a set of tools for merchants to unite and unify the wallet and the POS across channels, whether it's physical or digital, across devices, whether it's iOS or Android or PCs, and across tender types. That, to me, is the future of contactless payments. And when I say contactless, I mean literally one tap in the physical space, one tap in the online checkout, with one tap rewards that can be tied in with the payments, just like Starbucks. That's come 10 years ago. But to make it available for SMBs and make it available for just about any merchant that's out there. So we believe that this level of experience is absolutely possible. Certainly OV Loop is one of the companies that is square in the middle of designing for this kind of a solution, but others that need to come into this space need to also think about those attributes. So we look forward to a bright future ahead of us, and it's certainly exciting times. And whether it's for Canada or for North America, I'm excited to see what the future bears in the years to come. So thank you.